What if your next Instagram notification didn't show you the past, but the future? Amara Wells was just like any other 29-year-old woman trying to find her rhythm in the chaos of modern life. Living alone in a cramped apartment on the edge of downtown Chicago, she balanced her day job as a graphic designer with the endless doom scrolling that consumed her nights. Social media wasn't just a distraction, it was her window to the world, a lifeline to feeling connected in a city where real conversations were rare. Her morning routine was always the same. Wake up, reach for her phone, swipe through notifications. Work emails, memes, random friend posts, nothing unusual. Until one Tuesday, at exactly 6:04 a.m., a push notification popped up from an account she didn't recognize. Warning, Don T, take the blue line today. She stared at it, confused. There was no app logo, no sender, just the message, and then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. Brushing it off as a glitch or a half-dream, she went about her day. But an hour later, news broke. A train derailment on the Blue Line had injured dozens, the exact route she would have taken, the exact time she would have been there. Amara's fingers trembled as she gripped her phone, the glow from the screen now feeling different, charged, alive. Was it a coincidence, a warning, a hallucination, or was someone trying to tell her the future? She had no idea that this was just the beginning, that her phone, her second skin, would become a doorway into fate itself, and that she was no longer just scrolling through life, she was being pulled into it. Amara couldn't stop thinking about the Blue Line derailment. All day, her thoughts looped back to that eerie message. She checked her phone history, nothing. No screenshot, no sender name, no trace, like it had never happened. But it had. That night, lying in bed, she stared at the screen, hoping, dreading, needing something to happen again. And just before midnight, it did. Bring an umbrella tomorrow. 3:47 p.m., trust me. She blinked. The sky had been clear all week, not a cloud in the forecast. But the message wasn't just a suggestion, it felt like a whisper from the future. She took a screenshot this time, but within seconds, it vanished from her notifications, erased without a trace. The next day, she shoved a small umbrella into her bag, more out of paranoia than belief. At exactly 3:47 p.m., as she was walking to the corner coffee shop, the sky cracked open and unleashed a violent summer storm, thunder, sheets of rain. People screaming and running for cover. She stood dry under her umbrella, staring at the chaos, heart pounding. This couldn't be luck, not twice. The messages came sporadically, short, cryptic warnings, sometimes an hour before, sometimes a full day. A spilled coffee she avoided. A rude driver she didn't cross paths with, a fire alarm she exited just minutes before it rang. Each time her disbelief gave way to awe, then to fear. She told no one who would believe her. Her best friend Tasha would laugh it off, and her coworkers barely noticed when she was in the room. It was hers alone, this terrifying gift. But with each message, she began noticing something else, subtle changes in the apps themselves. Her Twitter feed occasionally refreshed on its own, showing tweets from accounts that didn't exist. Instagram DMs arrived from blank profiles saying things like, "You're not crazy, we chose you." Amara's chest tightened. Who was we? Why her? One night, she tried to stay awake, watching her phone, determined to catch it glitching. As 2 a.m. rolled around, her phone buzzed. No apps open, no reason for it to light up. She picked it up and found another message. The future is a thread, you've started to pull it. Her fingers trembled as she dropped the phone. She wasn't dreaming this. Something or someone was using her phone to communicate through time. Not all the time, just enough to shake her reality. She couldn't deny it anymore. Her phone wasn't just a device. It had become a window, a tool, a warning system. But was it helping her or testing her? Amara sat in her living room, phone in hand, surrounded by open notebooks filled with scribbled timestamps, strange messages and patterns she couldn't make sense of. The walls, once blank and cozy, now felt like the inside of a detective's den. She needed answers. If her phone really showed the future, there had to be a way to test it, control it. So she started small. She picked a random social media app each day and checked it obsessively. She wrote down every unusual notification. She tested the warnings, no matter how trivial they seemed. Avoid 8th Street today. She changed her route. That evening, a gas leak forced an evacuation of the entire block. Don't respond to Daniel's text. She didn't. The next day, Daniel messaged again, apologizing for what he almost said. Curious, she asked him to elaborate. I was going to ask you out last night, he said, but I wasn't really in the right headspace. It would have been a disaster. The messages didn't come every day, and not all of them were dramatic. Some were random. Say yes to the coffee guy. Wear red tomorrow. But even these seemed to ripple through reality, causing outcomes she couldn't predict: chance meetings, strange conversations, odd looks from strangers. One day, she purposely ignored a message. Don't go to the bookstore at 5:13 p.m. She went anyway. Nothing happened at first. She browsed, bought a journal, chatted with the cashier. But outside, as she stepped onto the sidewalk, a car swerved, barely missing her by inches. Her bag flew from her shoulder, scattering everything. She sat on the curb afterward, shaken, heart racing. Okay, she whispered aloud, you win. Still, curiosity pushed her further. Could she use this power to help others? She tested it on her friend Tasha. When a notification said, call Tasha now, she did, and found her crying in the break room, overwhelmed after an argument with her boyfriend. How did you know? Tasha asked, voice cracking. Amara just shrugged. I had a feeling. Every test brought new possibilities and new questions. Could she change events completely? Were these futures fixed or flexible? She debated telling anyone, but she feared being treated like a lunatic. What if the messages stopped the moment she spoke them aloud? What if they were watching, so she kept it secret? And in that secrecy, the loneliness grew. The more she tested, the more her phone transformed. The icons shimmered strangely at night. The battery never seemed to drain. Some apps refused to open when danger approached. Others showed impossible post videos time-stamped hours into the future, captions about events that hadn't yet happened. Amara wasn't just seeing the future anymore. She was living between timelines. And whether she liked it or not, she was becoming something new, something powerful. But power, she knew, never came without a cost. The messages began to change. They grew darker. Less cryptic, more urgent. He's watching you. Don't go home tonight. Delete the last video. Now, at first, Amara thought it was paranoia. She was pushing her limits, obsessing over the future like it was a puzzle to solve. But then she noticed a man in a black hoodie appearing more than once, standing across the street. Blending into crowds, staring up at her apartment window without ever coming closer, she took pictures. The photos came out blurry, distorted, as if her phone refused to capture him clearly. Then came the hacked miss. At 2:04 a.m., a message popped up on her screen, not from the future, but from someone else entirely. We know what you are. The account had no name, no profile image. She tried blocking it, but it came back under another name and another. Always the same message. She panicked and finally confided in Tasha, who listened with wide eyes and growing dread. This is getting serious, she said. What if this isn't just a gift? What if someone gave this to you on purpose? Amara didn't sleep that night. The next morning, a new post showed up in her Instagram feed, an image of her sleeping, taken from outside her window. Caption: It's not just the future you're seeing. You're being watched in the present. That day, her phone went haywire. Notifications exploded, screen flickering, icons rearranging themselves. It was as if her device was fighting off an intrusion. And then came the worst part. She received a future post from a private account, a news alert. Breaking: woman found dead in Chicago apartment, cause unknown. The photo matched her living room. Timestamp: 48 hours from now. Terror flooded her. She shut everything down: phone, laptop, even the lights, and locked herself in the bathroom, heart pounding like a drum. Was this a warning, a prophecy, or a threat? She tried reporting it to the police, but the messages vanished the moment she handed over her phone. Screens went blank. Evidence wiped. She looked insane, and worse, she felt alone again. Suddenly, the power she once saw as a miracle had become a curse. It wasn't just showing her the future anymore, it was attracting danger. Something or someone was watching her use it. and they didn't like how far she'd gone. And now, she had less than 48 hours to figure out who was behind it and how to stop whatever was coming. Amara had always feared that no one would believe her. Now, she feared that someone did. Sleep-deprived and strung between fear and obsession, Amara became consumed by the question she'd avoided for weeks. Where is this power coming from? She had always assumed it was supernatural or a glitch in the universe, but now, she suspected something far more disturbing. If someone was watching her, if messages were being sent and erased in real time, then maybe it wasn't magic. Maybe it was a system. She started digging. Dark web forums, hacker groups, conspiracy subreddits. She searched every variation of future notifications, time glitches, predictive tech, and invisible apps. Most threads were nonsense people chasing ghosts in their code. But one post stopped her cold. A user named Void_74 had written 6 months ago, "Not all push notifications come from this timeline. Some apps were built to test crossover theories. They select candidates with high neuroreceptivity, people who won't break when reality does." Then it was deleted. Amara stared at the screen, trembling. High neuroreceptivity? Was that what she was? She remembered a research study she'd signed up for a year ago. Quick money, nothing invasive. Just wear a smart ring, use a special app for a month, and let it track your usage. It was sponsored by a company she'd never heard of, Chronosync Labs. She dug deeper and found only fragments, vanished articles, retracted papers, sealed patents. But one PDF had survived in a cache. Temporal predictive interfaces, early-stage human trials. The date matched her participation. And in the document, buried in scientific jargon, was a chilling summary. Subjects began reporting anticipatory feedback via digital platforms, images, notifications, and social signals hours to days before events occurred. Terminated trials due to psychological stress, user paranoia, and 2 unexplained deaths. Amara's breath caught. She hadn't been chosen. She'd been experimented on. Suddenly, the fragmented messages, the erasing data, the mysterious observers, it all made horrifying sense. The notifications weren't just a glitch in her phone. They were part of a controlled system designed to test the human brain's interaction with time. And she wasn't the only one. In an encrypted Discord server she managed to access using a clue from the PDF, she found others scattered around the world. A girl in Argentina who received future texts. A man in Tokyo who could hear whispers from podcasts before they aired. A teenage boy in Toronto whose smartwatch vibrated before accidents. They all had one thing in common. They all signed up for the same Chronosync pilot program. And most were terrified. Some had vanished. Others reported being followed. One posted a single cryptic message. "You can only predict the future so long before someone comes to shut you down." The server went offline the next day. Amara's head spun. This wasn't a gift, it was a trap. Her power didn't make her special, it made her a threat. And if that future notification about her death was real, she had less than 24 hours left to outsmart a system designed to stay one step ahead. Unless she could learn to beat it at its own game. Time was running out. Amara couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every minute felt like a countdown. The future post, the one showing her death, was still burned into her mind. Her apartment. Same couch, same window, same broken clock behind her. She tried changing the room, moved furniture, painted the walls, even smashed the clock, but nothing shook the chilling image from her memory. That night, a final warning lit up her screen. Tonight. 11:52 p.m. Run. Her heart nearly stopped. She stared at the notification, dread clawing through her. She looked at the time, 11:18, 34 minutes left. And for the first time she stopped panicking. She focused. If this was an experiment, if her phone's predictions were data-driven, then maybe she could manipulate it, change what it expected. She turned off every location service, disabled Wi-Fi, removed every app she hadn't used personally, and then she threw the phone in the freezer, let the signal die. She grabbed a go bag she had packed earlier that week just in case. No more waiting for instructions. No more following the script. It was time to write her own. She fled her apartment. But she didn't just disappear, she set a trap. Down the block, in a rented Airbnb under a fake name, she booted up a new device, one unconnected to Chronosync, no sync data. She logged into an isolated email and sent everything she uncovered to a list of tech journalists, bloggers, and whistleblower sites. The Chronosync PDF, the Discord screenshots, the predictive alerts, all of it. At 11:52 p.m., as the timestamp prediction clicked into reality, she was watching her apartment from a distance, and that's when the shadowy figure entered. She couldn't see their face, but she recognized the posture, the hoodie. The same man from before. He moved with intense silence, trained. When he emerged a few minutes later, her apartment lights flickered and then went dark. If she'd stayed, she would have died. Instead, she had proof. The next morning, her phone now thawed and buzzing uncontrollably flashed one final message. You broke protocol. You weren't supposed to survive. She stared at it, pulse steady, and whispered, too bad. A new notification came instantly. System reboot in progress. Congratulations, candidate number 103, Phase 2 unlocked. For a moment, the world stood still. Phase 2. Before she could process it, her phone screen lit up with new data maps, statistics, images of people. Faces marked danger, save, or neutral. Timelines branched like trees. She wasn't just seeing her future anymore. She was seeing everyone's. Amara dropped into the chair at the Airbnb's desk, trembling. This wasn't about escaping death anymore. This was about understanding why she had been given the power and what she would do with it now. She could save lives, prevent disasters, expose the ones trying to silence her. But it came with a choice: fade into hiding, or step into something bigger than herself. She chose the latter, because she was no longer the test subject. She was the glitch, the anomaly, the variable they hadn't predicted. And now, she was going to turn their system upside down? Amara never returned to her old apartment. That version of her life, the quiet designer with a normal job and too many unread notifications, was over. Now, every alert that pinged her screen had the weight of a choice, a life, a consequence. She could no longer scroll past the world. She was in it now, watching it, guiding it, sometimes even saving it. The new system, unlocked after she broke the protocol, was far more advanced. Not just vague messages, but full predictive models, accident trajectories, emotional trends, political shifts, even impending personal tragedies. It was like holding a living, breathing future in her palm, and it scared her. But instead of retreating, she built control. She isolated the data streams into categories: threats to others, events she could alter, people she needed to reach. Her once cluttered digital life became a precision tool. She traveled under aliases, kept low profiles, and carefully intercepted events before they turned fatal. A fire that never made the news because she rerouted a janitor to discover faulty wiring. A girl who never stepped in front of a car because Amara accidentally spilled coffee on her a moment before. A stranger in an airport who changed their flight after she slipped them a mysterious warning note. Each day she learned more. Each day she got smarter, bolder, but not everything could be stopped. Some events were fixed, immutable: a child who was always destined to die from illness. A protest that would always turn violent. Those broke her. She cried in empty motel rooms, screamed into pillows, begged the system to give her another path. It never did. Yet somehow those losses made her stronger. They reminded her that even with all her insight, she was still human, still fallible, still fighting, not ruling. The more she helped others, the more patterns she uncovered. Chronosync Labs was only the beginning. A secret network of tech companies, government contracts, and black-budget AI research lurked behind the curtains. Experiments in predictive consciousness, timeline threading, social engineering at a global scale. And she wasn't the only survivor anymore. Others found her, people who had once received strange alerts but had buried the memory. People who thought they were alone. She gathered them, trained them, shared her methods. Quietly, a digital resistance formed. A small group of seers, using future data not for power but for protection. They called her Echo, a myth, a whisper. A hero who could see what was coming and stop it. She didn't wear a cape, no mask, no superhuman strength. But she had something rarer: clarity, responsibility, and the courage to use her gift not to dominate the world, but to preserve the pieces of it that still held hope. The world never knew her name. To most, Amara Wells was a flippant artist who faded into obscurity. Someone who once lived in Chicago and vanished without a trace. No headlines, no monuments, just silence. But beneath that silence, change was blooming. The small network of seers she helped build had grown into a quiet force, intervening in moments the world never saw coming, averted tragedies. Anonymous tips, unexplained rescues. The digital fingerprints of Amara's legacy lived in every moment saved, in every future altered for the better. She had become something more than human. Not because of her power, but because of what she chose to do with it. Amara stood on the roof of a building in Lisbon, watching the sunrise spill across the Atlantic like liquid fire. Her phone buzzed gently beside her, not with chaos or warnings, but something else. You have changed the timeline. System adapting. Hope index rising. A smile touched her lips. It wasn't a final victory, but it was something, proof that her choices mattered. That even in a world built on prediction and manipulation, free will could still crack through the cracks of destiny. She didn't know how long the system would allow her to operate. She didn't know what Phase 3 would look like, if it even existed. But for now, she had time. And purpose. Most people scrolled their lives away, waiting for something extraordinary to find them. Amara had stopped scrolling. She had become the extraordinary. And though the world didn't see her face, didn't know her story, somewhere out there, a girl like she once was would feel something shift, would get a notification at just the right moment, would avoid a mistake, would survive, and maybe one day she'd follow the echoes too. The end, the future doesn't arrive at whispers. All you have to do is listen.